Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. English News Edition. The headlines. The head of state returns to the capital after his 72 hours official visit to France. Opening of the second exhibition and sale of handcraft products by women's cooperatives. For the international news, Catalans go to the polls in the midst of the pandemic. Hello, welcome again. Welcome to our newsroom for having the news in details. The President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Marguerite, returned to the country in the early evening after a 3-day official visit to France at the invitation of the French President Emmanuel Macron. On his arrival at Chambly International Airport, the President was welcomed by senior officials of the country, including Prime Minister His Excellency Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, the President of the airport, Mr. Mohammed Ali Hamid, and the members of the government, civil and military officials, foreign diplomats accredited to Djibouti, and representatives of the United Nations system in Djibouti. A 3-day official visit of President Anglais to France was accompanied by a strong delegation, including the Minister of External Affairs, Mohamed Ali Yusuf, the former Prime Minister and Chairman of the Djibouti Friendship Group, France, Dileta Mohamed Dileta, and the Djibouti Ambassador to France, Mr. Ayed Mousset Yahya. In addition, the President was accompanied by a strong high-level delegation, including the President of the French the ports and free zones authorities, Mr. Abubakar Omar Hadi. The strong delegation, including the President of the Abubakar Omar Hadi and the General Manager of the EDD, Mr. Jama Ali Gele, as well as the representatives of the private sector of Djibouti, including Mr. Abdullah Ibrahim, the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce of Djibouti, Mr. Burhan Mohamed Gidile, Mr. Saeed Del Wa'ais, Mr. Hussein Mahmoud, Mrs. Khadra Duxier, the Manager of Nomadic Company, and several other representatives of the sector. An official visit of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Marguerite, whose balance sheet is positive, with the signature of several political and economic agreements between Djibouti and France linked by strong ties. A visit aimed at revitalization relations between the two countries in defense and economic cooperation, particularly between the private sector of the two countries. Now, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Marguerite, returned to the country late this Sunday afternoon at the end of the 72-hour official visit he made to France at the invitation of his counterpart, Mr. Emmanuel Macron. This historic visit gave rise to an eminently richer message than the mere willingness of two countries to work to strengthen their relations of friendship and cooperation. Indeed, it took the form of a reunion illustrating the total convergence of views that prevails at the highest level between the two countries. The derogation made to the health protocol of supreme interest in force in France at the time of COVID to welcome President Gele and his delegation in Paris has undeniable value as a badge of high esteem granted to an illustrious guest. And the program of audiences with France's main public and private officials also reflect the country's clear desire to extend the synergy to all sectors of activity with its Djibouti ally. The summit meeting with President Emmanuel Macron was, of course, the major step in President Gele's official visit to France. Among other things, this meeting served as a framework for identifying new strategic poles of cooperation between the two countries in the field of development. It also included the signing of an agreement of intent to renew the Franco-Djiboutian Military Cooperation Treaty. In addition to the summit meeting between President Macron, the President of the Republic received several members of the French government in his private residence. This hearing leads to the adoption of a series of agreements between the two countries, including two framework agreements, one of which is dedicated to scientific cooperation and the other to decentralized cooperation. In addition, a series of agreements covering several areas of cooperation were signed by the heads of the two countries, diplomats, and also private sectors. In addition to the French executive, the Djiboutian head of state also visited the Senate and the MEDF, as well as the headquarters of the Francophonie. An extended meeting took place with the MEDF between the Djiboutian and the French sides. In an address to the members of the MEDF, which is the main employers organization in France, the President of the Republic made a general inventory of Djibouti's assets in terms of investments. Djibouti is a land of the future and opportunities. We would like France and French companies to participate actively alongside us in the development of opportunities, he declared in his intervention. I would like to present the exceptional platform that we have built to develop our trade and which, moreover, remains the only French-speaking platform several thousand miles away, he added. In short, this visit was a privileged opportunity for the two nations to reiterate, through their main leaders, their commitment to boosting exceptional ties rooted in time and space and woven by the thread of language and culture. During his visit, President Anglais was accompanied by the Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Djibouti Ambassador to France, Mr. Ayed Moussa Yahya, and the former Prime Minister, Mr. Adileta Mohamed Adileta, Djiboutian officials, and a representative of Djiboutian private sector. On the sidelines of his visit to France, the President of the Republic went to the headquarters of the International Organization of the Francophonie, where he met the General Secretary of this organization.
Djibouti est une avenir et d'opportunités. Et nous souhaitons que la France et les entreprises françaises participent activement.
The First Lady, Mrs. Khadra Mahmoud Haid, was honored today at the end of afternoon by her presence at the official inauguration of the first branch of the Taif Al Emirat House. It is a boutique dedicated mainly to the high-range perfumes of Oud of Arabi. Taif Al Emirat is the leader in luxury oriental perfumes, high-end products that are created from the best perfume ingredients and are well known for masterfully combining oriental notes with Arabic fragrances in their trail. A precious and distinctive catalog inspired by the culture and tradition of Arabian Gulf, inspired by nature and created with the finest ingredients from sustainable sources. A boutique decorated in a glamorous style and using oud wood, shaving in a purely Arabic decoration, all in an atmosphere of powerful and refined incense, fragrances, and as many bewitching scents. The opening of this perfumery brought together personalities as diverse as varied and enthusiastic of Oriental wood fragrances, a descent into the sensory world of boys' oud. The inauguration was a rendezvous for oud lovers and served as a real olfactory journey. Indeed, Taif Al Emirat, this flagship in Djibouti, illustrates the ambition of this brand to develop these projects in the rest of Africa using our country as a bridgehead. Speaking to the press, the general manager of Taif Al Emirat, Mr. Haytham Abdul Baqi, declared, I quote, "We are happy to establish ourselves in Djibouti. This choice for our new branch is explained by the development that Djibouti is experiencing, its economic growth and its fruitful result in trade, but also in various fields, its proximity to the Middle East and the first in the African continent." Moving on to another news now, the second exhibition of and sale of handcraft product of women's cooperation was launched on 11 February 2021 at the French Institute of Djibouti. The Ministry of Women and Family, in close collaboration with the National Union of Jewish Women and the French Institute, organized this activity for a period of 3 days, 11th, 13th, and the 14th February 2021. This is an event to further promote a local project and enhance the economic empowerment for women in rural areas as well as Djibouti City. The ceremony was attended by the Minister of Women and Family, Mrs. Moumina, the French Embassy, Mrs. Etienne Provost, the head of cooperation of the delegation to the European Union, Mr. Bernard Francois, and officials of various parties and visitors.
It's really cool to see all the different artwork and arts and crafts, things that women from Djibouti put together. So the work that we're doing, we work a lot with the CASAF, and it's great to see some of their products here that people can buy and help support them over there, like learning new trades and crafts.
The head of affairs of the French Embassy in Djibouti and the head of the European Union delegation in Djibouti confirmed that the aim of the idea of creating the association is to help craftswomen by marketing what they make with their hands and as the craft is prepared, and we support them in their progress. The General Secretary of the National Union of Djiboutian Women praised the operational capacities of Djiboutian women and noted that the organization of such shows is aimed at strengthening the foundation of women's work in the interior regions of the country and preserving their professional and intellectual projects' rights, especially handcrafts projects. Now, the President of the National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Salman Omar Uddin, opened a training workshop on human rights on Saturday, February 13, 2021 at the Sheraton Hotel. The workshop, led by two experts from the regional office and office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mrs. Florina Frey and Mr. Bakari Shafi, brought together numerous participants from the interior regions, including the head of the Commission's branches, representative of the Regional Council, Prefecture, and civil society organization. Various themes on the fundamental principles and values of human rights, as well as the management of the complaint mechanism, the promotion and protection of human rights, gender mainstreaming, was presented by the expert. The workshop ended at 17:13 on Sunday, 14 February 2021. The President of the National Human Rights Committee referred to the importance of this occasion and said that the committee had made an effort in cooperation with all partners and concerned authorities to open branches of the Commission in the interior regions and affiliated to it, and had also worked with all local authorities and wise men from all the interior regions to employ 5 young religious. This morning, the Hussein Center hosted the first day of consultation prior to the arrival of Saudi Medical Surgical Caravan, which is scheduled for February 18 to 25, 2021. This Saudi caravan targets children under the age of 15 with serious pathologies and complications in the field of pediatrics, general surgery, and pediatric urology. Made up of 1 million doctors and surgeons, the Saudi Medical Mission of the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Central will lead a surgical caravan to Djibouti. Patients have until tomorrow to present their children and compile medical files at the Hussein Reproductive Health Reference Center. The selected patients will benefit from free specialist care and surgical operation at the Pelti Hospital and the Sheikh Hospital. The population is strongly requested to come en masse to the Hussein Center to start the pre-registration procedures to benefit from Saudi medical expertise. On Monday, 8 February 2021, a team from the organizing committee of the Fair and Employment Forum, led by the General Secretary of the Ministry of Labor in charge of administration reform, visited Oboh to organize a workshop to reflect on ways and means of developing opportunities for the creation of decent jobs in the region. This activity is a part of the consultation undertaken by the Ministry of Labor with the social partners, local authorities, and public institutions to support employment initiatives and to prepare the National Employment Forum schedule for 18-20 February 2021 in Djibouti City at the People's Palace. This working session was launched by the local authorities, the General Secretary of the Ministry of Labor, and the General Secretary of the State Secretary for Decentralization. The participants showed great interest in the topic discussed, employment remaining a key concern more than elsewhere. The executive of the Ministry of Labor, Mrs. Koina Omar, Mr. Ali Mohammed, Mr. Usman El Tere, and Mrs. Muna Mohammed Ahmed animated the workshop. The debates were fruitful and structuring. Strong recommendations were formulated by the people of Wabakh. The General Secretary of the Ministry of Labor and the Secretary General of the State Decentralization highlighted that the government is committed to putting in place operational proceeding with the aim of implementing projects that will strengthen the steps to create employment opportunities for young people. Now on Tuesday, February 90th, 2021, in the region of Arta, Mr. Mohammed Fouzi Ahmed, Deputy Prefect of Arta, Mr. Elmi Bouh, President of the Regional Council of Arta, Mr. Omar Wabiri Malaw, and Mrs. Aisha Abdullah, the two deputies of the region, the local elected Director General of the Public Education of Menfeb, Mr. Abdi, the Air Brigade General Stéphane Dupont, commanding the French station in Djibouti, inaugurated the rehabilitation of the water reservoir, as well as the renovation and painting of classroom in the installation of library at the PK50 primary school. This will improve the living and working condition of the pupils, teachers of the school, and to the great joy of the parents, to the pupils who were delighted with the execution of the works. The Brigadier General was pleased with the quality of the work carried out by a local contractor for the construction and rehabilitation of the roof, ceilings, and painting work, and stressed that this type of activity is part of the FFTG's partnership with the prefecture and the good historical cooperation between our two friendly countries. Moving on to international news, Catalonia in Spain returns to the polls this Sunday for an undecided regional election in a context dominated by COVID-19. In Sunday's regional election, Pedro Sanchez's Socialist Party aims to oust the two main pro-independence forces that govern Catalonia and drive them from power less than 4 years after an abortive secession attempt that left painful traces in the region. At a meeting in support of his candidate Salvador Illa, former health minister, the head of government called on Friday for Catalans to vote en masse to decide their future. Pedro Sanchez had made the trip to Barcelona especially for the occasion. The pro-independence parties have joined together to create a common front to try to get a majority to form a government. But another formation could create a surprise. The Vox party, located on the extreme right of the political spectrum, credited with 6% of voting intention, it could seduce an electorate opposed to the independence of Catalonia and thus siphon votes, especially from the right, to enter regional parliaments. This is it for this edition of 9 p.m. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful evening.